Talking NFL as we bring in our good friend Jim Lang. Pinch hitting today for Joe Madden. I appreciate that, Jimbo, and he'll be with us Friday as well. The Las Vegas Raiders have fired head coach Josh McDaniels and general manager David Ziegler. That was announced Tuesday night, Jim. And then I understand they're making a quarterback change and an offensive coordinator change. So clearly they have cleaned house in Las Vegas.
Yes, before we get on that, I just want a reminder. I just picked up my Sherwood Cut Protective Neck Guard for my Wednesday Beer League hockey. For all you guys and girls playing rec hockey and Beer League hockey, $14 for check. It'll save a life. It's light. It hardly costs anything. There's no weight to it. It's easy just to toss in your gear bag. And after what we witnessed with Adam Johnson, come on, guys, girls, get your neck guard and throw it in your gear bag. You need it.
Yeah, there should be no argument to that whatsoever. And thank you, Jim, for bringing awareness to that and supporting it. So I should have had a look at your neck before I asked you that first question. But now here we are and talking about the Raiders. I had to get you on because it's your team. Do you sign off on these moves or not?
Well, I sign off on the moves, but in typical Mark Davis fashion, this is how completely and totally and unreservedly he's driven the franchise into the desert in Las Vegas. The trade deadline happened in the afternoon. He fired the coach and GM afterward. Davante Adams doesn't want to be there anymore. Why not do it Tuesday after the Monday night loss, early in the day, so you can make the change and have something? Or it's often like the first thing in the morning after a loss, the coaches, like after a season, like 7 a.m., like you're fired, and have someone in there make a decision. So the trade deadline's come and gone. All these moves happened. The Raiders weren't part of it. And now you've got a dysfunctional locker room. Antonio Pierce, their interim coach, in an impossible situation. You've got a new quarterback on a short week. I mean, the only saving grace is that the New York Giants are riddled with injuries. But it's a horrible situation. And for the Raiders, it dates back to 2003, the year after they went to the Super Bowl and lost to Tampa Bay. They went 12 years where they had 8 wins or less. 6 of those years, they had 4 wins or less. They made the playoffs twice in 20 years, twice. And for a team that had 9 years of John Madden in a Super Bowl victory, 9 years of Tom Flores and 2 Super Bowl victories. So for 18 years, they are among the best franchises in the NFL. And now there's this. So the NFL is a better league when the Raiders are a competitive playoff team. But what we're seeing now with Mark Davis, and you alluded to it earlier about ownership, starting at the top, I don't trust Mark Davis to make the right moves or right decisions or hire the right people. I mean, how could you? He hasn't proven. He doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt, not whatsoever.
Well, when you're talking about firing the GM, then you know it's coming from the owner, and maybe he's making those moves at the head coaching level and quarterback too. And if that's like his dad did, right? But his dad could be trusted with these moves.
Okay, but a little history of Al Davis. People forget. Offensive line coach at USC in the 50s. Offensive assistant for Sid Gilman in the LA Charger in the early 60s in the WFL. 2 years the head coach of the Raiders in the 60s. He had a long history, Al Davis, as an assistant at the high school, college, and professional level before he went into management, before he became the GM and part owner of the Raiders for 20 years. Now, he made a lot of good moves over the years. He made some bad moves, but he's a football guy from a football background. Mark Davis is the son with the bad haircut in the old Aerostar van and going to TGI Fridays and Applebee's, and who's a bit of a meme and a laughingstock around the NFL, who was given the keys to the franchise, who doesn't understand the sport really, doesn't understand what is involved. I think of Amy Trask at the CBS NFL, who does a fabulous job breaking stuff down, and she worked under Al Davis. They could really use someone like an Amy Trask in Las Vegas to clean up the mess. They need someone with a track record of excellence in the National Football League to go in there. I remember talking to Rich Gannon at Super Bowl 44, and that was in South Florida. And Rich and I were talking because, I mean, he was the MVP the year they went to the Super Bowl. And at that time, he was shaking his head like, the Raiders are a mess. I mean, it's tough to be a Raiders fan right now because you're wondering, when does it end? When do they make the hires and try to compete? Because we saw what Sean Payton doing in Denver, and that victory from the Broncos over Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, that the seeds of that were planted last spring and summer when Sean Payton got on board and started building towards this. Now, if I'm a Broncos fan, I'm thinking, wait a second. Sean Payton did it in New Orleans. Why can't he do it in Denver? And let's see what he's doing. And this is a real big victory for the Broncos to build off of. But what do the Raiders build off of? There's nothing right now. The cupboard is bare, and the leadership with Mark Davis is missing in action.
Okay, well, this is great stuff. And I'm looking at this as not a Raider fan. I'm just looking at it as an outsider, as a NFL fan. They're 3-5, which isn't great, but it's not 0-8. Like, do you sign off on these moves? Would you have made them?
If you think you're going to turn things around midseason in the NFL with a coaching change, I think you're delusional. It's just coaching changes tend to happen the Monday morning at 7 a.m. after the last game. This is when they call it Black Monday, and they start firing coaches and GMs and make their changes because you need an off season. You can't hire an assistant coach in the middle of the season. They're working. You can't make deals now. The deadline's over. You can't sign people unless they were cut or on waivers. So Antonio Pierce is going to try to put some duct tape and Band-Aids on the bleeding wound that is the Raiders right now, try to restore some pride and poise, the old Al Davis saying, and maybe they can eke out some victories and make it respectable. But as you said, they're 3-5, so they're not bad enough, Rod, to get those elite top 2 or 3 draft picks. So they're probably going to be in that draft limbo at the end of the season, which is the worst thing for the Raiders. So it's all, to me, going to come back to if Mark Davis can hire a proper steward to be the GM and player personnel to hire the right coach. I mean, look what McDaniels is doing in Miami. But look what the Dolphins, look what happened when the Chiefs gave the keys to the franchise to Andy Reid. I look at Sunday morning, that Frankfurt, Germany, the 9:30 game, Dolphins and Chiefs, potential AFC Championship preview, right? And then Sunday night, you got the Bills and the Bengals. That could be a big AFC playoff preview as well. I mean, those 4 teams are light years ahead of the Raiders right now. But both with the talent, with people like Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and the Tua and everyone involved, the Raiders don't have anything like that. They don't have an elite level owner or GM or coach or quarterback. And so, yeah, they got 3 wins, but that's about it. It's really sad for the Raiders. And the rest of the teams around the NFL, Houston's got CJ Stroud, and they got DeMeco Ryans, which is a smart hire, and they got CJ Stroud, and they can build off that. And some of these teams are like, they're pointing in the right direction. They're going to go places. I mean, look at Dallas and Philadelphia and the talent they have with the Cowboys and Eagles in that 4:25 game on Sunday. The Raiders wouldn't even be allowed in the same stadium as those teams, right?
Hey, a quick one. We got about 90 seconds. Do you see John Gruden ever coaching again in the NFL? Like, holy smokes, did Goodell do a number on Gruden?
Yeah, no, I just don't. I think it's too toxic. I'm not sure Goodell would allow the hire. Now, of course, that would go to the courts, whether the right to earn a living and all that. But there's so many bright coordinators and assistant coaches and NCAA coaches out there. He's been rehashed a few times. Sometimes you have to say you can't keep going back to the well and get an old coach because he won 20 years ago and he was really good at Monday Night Football. You have to go to a new voice, a new face, a new coach, and do things. And often, if you look at some of these top teams around the league, it works.
Absolutely. Jim, thanks for pitch hitting. I hope you enjoyed it as much as us. You're the only guy I wanted to talk to on this. We'll see you Friday.
See you. Bye-bye.
Jim Clubber Lang, Canada's foremost NFL expert.